Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms. These are Charter Moms Chats, and this month and next month, we're putting a spotlight on some of the best early childhood programs in San Antonio. And today we're featuring the Acorn School, a school for young children, which is located in the heart of San Antonio on Broadway, right by Brackenridge Park. And our two guests to tell us all about the Acorn School are Wendy Starnes, and she is the director of The Acorn, a school for young children. And then we also are so lucky to have Rich Lange, who's one of the co-founders, along with his wife, of The Acorn School. So Wendy and Rich, thank you so much for joining me on Charter Moms Chats.
Thanks for having us.
Our pleasure.
Yeah. So, okay, well, the first question for people who maybe haven't heard of The Acorn School yet, can y'all describe like the mission and vision? Like what's the big picture?
The big picture is that we want to help promote self-confidence and a positive self-concept in every child here at The Acorn by offering a well-rounded program based on the principles of pure child development. So we want to enhance all areas of a child's development through play and social learning in a fun, creative environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think, I mean, that's one of our goals of this series is to kind of raise people's expectations about what to expect from early childhood programs. And that's why I'm really proud to include the Acorn School, because I know, this is my chance to plug. So on the sachartermoms.com blog, we have a post written by our author, Bonnie Osterhage, all about the Acorn School. And I encourage anybody, if you're just coming to the video first, click on the link in the description of the video. It'll take you to the blog post that talks about like some of the research-based practices that, going back to Piaget, like, some of the really early research about child development, and how that influences what's happening at the Acorn School. So, I just want to encourage people to visit the blog. That also has links to visit the Acorn School's website, which is also really informative about like the curriculum and the culture at the school. So, what I'm really excited when we're
child development. We follow Erickson and Piaget, the founding fathers of child development, and part of that, as Wendy said, is hands-on learning. But if you make learning fun and interesting, then you've just got them captivated. They can't wait to come to school. They can't wait to learn more. They really don't even realize that they're learning. They're just, you just present all the right things to them at the right developmental times, and that's what knowing child development really makes a big difference for. And then they just run with it. They just lap it up. And our kids, they don't understand why we don't have school on Saturday, or why is Christmas break so long?
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. It should always be like that, but it isn't always. Yeah. Well, Rich, can you tell us more about the founding of the Acorn School that
Sure.
you and your wife created?
Kenny and I have master's degrees in child development, and my undergraduate degree was in business from University of Pennsylvania, from the Wharton School. And my wife, I started working in the trust department of a bank, and my wife started working with young children. And I just found myself, I came home from the bank every day and just, what'd Johnny do today? And Johnny's parents were getting a divorce. And so it totally changed his behavior. And I was just fascinated by the whole psychology of it. So we looked around the country, and Michigan State had one of the best departments in child development. We went up there, got our master's in child development, and then we started our first school up there. So we had that school for 4 years, and then we came down to San Antonio, my wife Kitty's hometown, and started the Acorn School. We were in our young 30s then, 43 years ago. So we did, and part of why we started school here and the one in Michigan is that we would go visit schools all the time, and we really never saw schools that were totally child development. You learn all these things in class, and you learn all these things as reading parenting books and so forth, but nobody puts them all into practice. And so that's one of the things that made us really want to start our own school, because we thought, well, we can do it and follow all the principles of child development. And so that's what we've done.
Yeah. Well, and then the result is kids who really want to be in school because it feels like play to them.
That's
It's fun.
And play is the key. Play-based, there are all these studies out there that show that kids that go to a play-based preschool and kindergarten, when they test those kids 15, 18 years later, they score higher than the kids that went to some academic kindergarten. And so play is really, child development is the proven body of knowledge, and play is the key to that. But a lot of people that make decisions for schools, they have degrees in education, and you'd be hard pressed to find a principal that knows very much about preschool, kindergarten, first or second grade. They just don't. They have a degree in education, and the difference being that child development is all about what's going on inside of the child. How can you best teach them at all these different ages and stages? And in education, you're learning methodology. How do you teach spelling? How do you teach history? How do you teach reading? And so it's just a world of difference. And a lot of the schools that we visited, they were started by former teachers of fifth grade maybe, and they just tried to use their public school methodology and move it down to preschool. And so, having them sit in chairs more and all those things that are just not developmentally appropriate for children.
Right. Rich mentioned Piaget and Erickson, and I always tell people children have not changed, but societal expectations have changed. And I was really tickled this week. Harvard College just published, I think like 2 or 3 days ago, a new book called The Pedagogy of Play. And they've been doing this research for 5 or 6 years on play-based learning for young children. And they're taking it though, and they're saying, we need to bring play back not only to our young children's curriculums, but through middle school, through high school even, and bring those play elements. And they want to help get that back into schools and say, here's how you can bring that to a high school classroom and engage children in a play-based way. Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Great. Yeah, that's good. We have to get that book.
And we're good. That's in my cart.
Yeah. I think
You can
I
actually
should get
read it
that
online for free, but it's a lot of pages for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can be a challenge for good ideas from research to make it into the classroom. And sometimes there's other forces pushing the other way, right? Like in Texas, starting in third grade, students are taking, if they're in public school or charter school, they're taking standardized tests. And I think that's a force that drives some of these more academic type behaviors, like kids sitting down and doing worksheets. It pushes that to younger and younger ages, because the schools are looking towards, starting by third grade, we're going to be evaluated on standardized testing, so we need to start now. But the research shows that may actually be like not the right approach.
Yeah, it hinders it more than. I also think it plays a part in the mental health of our youth. So the push down is felt tremendously by these little people.
Yeah. Well, you talked about like having a play-based approach and being very mindful about the principles of child development and like what's happening in children's minds about how they learn. But like, how does that inform like the learning approach at the Acorn?
Yeah. So, I mean, we want them to kind of lead their own learning to an extent, but I think one of the big pieces here at the Acorn is that our environment is one of the teachers. And so our teachers, I often tell them, like, you're the best facilitators we have. You kind of set the stage, but then they're really good at taking cues from the children, incorporating their ideas or where their interests kind of wander away. And they're humble enough to remove themselves from the equation and make it not all about themselves. They take the children to heart and kind of go with some of their interests. And I picked this room today to kind of sit in because I think this is a excellent example of some learning that comes alive with children. They love dinosaurs. They've recently walked down to the dinosaur exhibit at the Whitty Museum and came back and talked about it. But while they were there, they really took note of how the exhibits were arranged, how there was information to tell you about what was happening, and just how it was styled, that there was a lot of thought into the design element of it. And so then they came back to our school and they've created a museum. I'm going to hold this up a little bit so you can see it a little bit more. where they've been working on these elements of exhibits and decorations and making creatures and then also labeling and making the setup of the room. And I shared with Inga, I happened to be sitting at the concession stand. And I love that this is Brave Spelling. And it's a great example of how they're incorporating these words. And so you can tell in this word, this child is listening, concession, and they put together that SH sound that they hear so much. It jumped before the N in there, but that's just part of that. Yeah. Questions. But it's just because that's how it's all still meandering, but that has more ownership for them to do. And they will retain that kind of learning by virtue of doing it. But they made souvenirs. They took clay and put little fossils and, made fossil imprints. And so now all the younger classes are coming in, they get a ticket and they have a tour guide. They made brochures for it. And then they get to go to the concession stand and souvenir stand and take something home with them about it. So the children then have, great practice on speaking to other people, on how to greet a guest. You can't leave 3-year-olds in the museum. They might get in the exhibit. So they're learning all these things and it's really come alive for them. So then you'll walk through and you'll hear them say, well, what kind of museum should we build next? Or the same, they might do a play and invite the other classes to it, but it just helps them take it to another level.
And, to build on this Brave Spelling, it's just so great. We want our children, there's a lot of schools that they want the children to spell things just right. And so they're still learning. They're learning their sounds. They're learning to sound things. And so we want them to get down in writing just all the sounds they hear. And at first they leave out a lot of vowels, and then they start adding some vowels here and there. But we want to create young writers, not children that feel like, oh, my thoughts, I can only write the thoughts that I know how to spell. We want them to get their biggest, broadest thoughts, creative thoughts out there, and just with the best they can do. And they write books. They will write books, and it's just, they're all going to learn to spell eventually. So it all comes together around 3rd or 4th grade for these brave spellers. And, or maybe earlier if they have spelling tests every Friday, like I grew up with. But and if not, they have spell check. So anyway, we want them to be writers. We want to get those big thoughts and stories down.
I was going to show you an example of one of the brochures. So Velociraptor, illustrated by Emmy. And inside, she's written a few facts there. Carnivore, fast, 2 legs.
Lots of teeth
on the back. So those are the kinds of things, that they really then take ownership of, and they'll remember those things.
Yeah. Well, and earlier, I think it was Rich mentioned about kind of mental health challenges that students are experiencing, or maybe it was Wendy, that, if students are not allowed to play, if they're, having to sit in desks and do worksheets, that, it affects how they feel about themselves. And it comes through in the museum, in the room, and these, the brave spelling in the brochures, like these students are proud of what they're creating, and they're excited to come up with more ideas and think about what to do next. And that's different than how they might feel if they were in a very structured environment, or they're being constantly evaluated about, like, oh, you did this wrong, you have to do better next time.
Yeah, I find it much more valuable for them to evaluate their own work. And sometimes if a child, has reversed a letter or something, and it's part of the lesson that you want them to discover it, you just invite them to kind of look and scrutinize their own work and see, and you'll see them go, I flip-flopped it. Mm-hmm. Let me fix that, so that it's much more valuable, and they feel a lot better about themselves, for sure.
And that's a big, that's one of our goals, is to promote self-concept, good self-concept in every single child, just to have that can-do attitude. And self-concept goes a long way in life. The people that have a good self-concept just have an easier time with life altogether. And so that's one of the things that we want to help them along with.
Yeah, and you're preparing them for things that will serve them well in as they're later in school and also in life. 'Cause I
Yeah,
think sometimes people
exactly.
forget that the destination is not, high school graduation. The destination is like a productive, independent, happy
Yeah.
life where you get to self-actualize and, live your dreams, hopefully.
That's, I mean, I think that for me is one of the big things that we're very pro-social life skill giving. And, part of that comes from these kinds of works that they do in here. You want them to have purposeful conversations with their peers, and you have to kind of teach them those things. You have to teach them those scripts on how to politely ask for something, how to, say, like, when you're finished, may I have a turn? Or, we're going to build this thing. How do you think it should look? And negotiation skills come up in that quite often.
Right.
So,
And that's one of the overriding themes of ages 3 and 4, gaining social skills. How do you be a friend? How do you be aware of other people's feelings? How do you share? How do you take turns? All those things happen in preschool. And the COVID years were tough because there were a lot of families that were fearful and didn't send their children to preschool. And so there's a certain era of child in there that were in the preschool years during COVID that just didn't get all those things that they need to have. And child development will tell you that you need to get those in the preschool years. If you miss them, it's tricky to get some of them back. Yeah. One of the things that we probably should mention is that at the Acorn, we have one teacher for every 5 children. And so that ratio allows us to really individualize with all the children all the time and have a lot of teachers available for the children. If we're studying dinosaurs and they come in and they're real interested in whales, well, a teacher can talk to them all about that and maybe even draw some relationship there. But it's that ratio is real important for young children. The younger they are, the better ratio that they need to have. In our kindergarten, we have 20 children and 3 teachers. So that's pretty unique for a kindergarten. And so that's just something that needs to, we have also in the preschool classes, they have 4 good sized rooms to move around in. So one of them's devoted to art. One of them's devoted to manipulatives. And we have a reading loft in each class where they can climb up a ladder and get into the reading loft and cuddle up. And 3 friends total can be up there and read some books or just talk to each other quietly. Science shelves in that manipulative room. And right now we're incubating chicks. We're going to hatch out probably 4 or 5 dozen chicks. And we got about and some ducks. Yeah, that's right. So they love that. They get so excited. We put a little card up every day that shows them how big the chick is inside of the egg. And we talk to them all about it and explain everything and very exciting time. Another room is a motor room. That's one area that in most schools, motor development happens outside, just helter-skelter. We have a room inside in each classroom devoted to motor development. There's a real close correlation between motor development and self-confidence. And because a lot of what happens in life is in neighborhood play or after school play or all these kinds of opportunities. And if children have had the opportunity to be exposed to all these different motor skills so that they feel comfortable with them, then they're going to join in with whatever that play is. And that is just helps their concept a lot. So we have that motor room, art room, manipulative room, and then we have a dramatic play room and a block area. They're all in one room. So we have big sets of blocks, some of them real big unit blocks. Where am I on here? And then other ones down to the regular old size blocks, and then little teeny blocks even. Then dramatic play, which we might be a bakery one week or a pizza parlor or a flower shop, space command control central, might be a dentist's office, vet's office, could be a beauty parlor. We just, sky's the limit. We're kind of known for our extensive dramatic plays. And their children make sense out of the world by taking on the roles of those they see around them in their daily lives. So it's really neat. They all, when we have the grocery store, they're all out there running the cash registers and giving change and stocking the shelves. And it's great. They get a lot of concepts out of it, but it's just fun to take on those roles, because when they go to the grocery store, they see that kind of thing going on. Post office, they sort things, they stamp mail, they put it into sorting boxes and deliver the mail to post office boxes around the school, and just fun stuff. They weigh it, all the different concepts you can get.
If we have time at the end, maybe I can run around without making anyone too seasick. We have upstairs, there's a rainforest dramatic play. It's so dynamic and fun. They've got balloons hanging from the ceiling like raindrops. And then the other side up there has camping at night. So they're talking about nocturnal animals this week and using flashlights and black light in the art room. And then downstairs on this side is a fiesta kitchen, and they're wearing the dresses and hats all week and cooking lots of tacos. So, and then of course the dinosaur museum. So.
Right. And isn't it great how kids they don't have the inhibitions that like teenagers or adults do sometimes about like, wait, am I doing this the right way? What am I supposed to do? Like they just like naturally like step into those roles, and right. And then, and they're interacting with each other. Right. So it adds just a little bit of structure to the kind of, the way they build the social skills.
Absolutely. It's funny. The other day we had some tree work done on the playground. And I was talking to the tree guy that was here, and he was telling me how much he enjoys working with children and coming, because I was inviting him to come and talk with us. And he said, yeah, I like it when they're young and abstract thinking hasn't been taught out of them. And I thought, wow, that's really quite a statement.
No, that is. Well, and that's our attitude about art too. And all children are born naturally creative. It's just that somewhere along the line, some adult has taught the creativity out of them by trying to make them think like adults. And so an example of that might be if you were going to draw a sun, and your child makes the sun green, that would drive a lot of parents crazy, and an awful lot of teachers, unfortunately. And now, Johnny, what color's the sun? They want them to make it yellow. Well, so we actually learn about the great artists. We'll have Monets and Van Goghs and bring them in and show them, hey, here's a Monet, and he had a green sun. And maybe that's just the way he felt that day, and he wanted to make the sun green, or maybe that's the way the light played on it that day, and it seemed green at the time. And so that opens them up for their creativity to flourish by being so encouraging about being creative in the kinds of things. There's no right or wrong way to do art. It's just in the eye of the beholder. And so that's another important concept here at the Acorn.
Yeah, no, y'all have done I had on my notes to ask, like, basically, what makes the Acorn different from other schools? And y'all have shared a bunch of things, like, right, like the teacher-student ratio, and like all these dramatic play spaces, and Wendy, I'll take you up on that. Like as we get towards the end, you can go on a little tour of these spaces.
That's the icing on the cake.
Are there any points we haven't covered yet about like things that? Well, I guess one thing about Acorn is the schedule is. Right. Like, I guess, so like some families are, have working parents and they want extended care, but that's not something that the Acorn is offered, but it's more geared towards like, this is an appropriate amount of time for a child to be in a setting like this. And then they need to go home and unwind.
We don't have naps. We have half-day programs in the morning, and those teachers go home. We have a new set of teachers, and afternoon children come.
That are all fresh and ready to roll.
Mm-hmm.
Because working with children all day, as all you parents know out there, it's very taxing, and so you're pretty darn tired. So we want to keep our teachers fresh and have them give 110% every day. So they only work half days.
I think some parents, have it in their head like, "What do you come in the afternoon to school?" And then they think about their child, and maybe their child likes to sleep in a little later, or they wake up and they're very self-entertained for a while, and they play and they're content, and it's around lunchtime that they're saying, Mom, I'm bored. Play with me. And then they come to us and they have this full stimulating afternoon of activity. So that it works pretty beautifully for certain children.
Right. And we do have an extended day where the children can bring a lunch and stay until 2, one day of the week. And then also we work real closely with Walden Pond, which is just half a block away from us. And they will come and pick up a whole bunch of morning children, and they go down to Walden Pond for afternoon classes, or they go to Walden Pond in the morning and come back to Acorn for afternoon classes. And so that works really well for somebody that needs some longer days. It's not as long as daycare, but you'd be very hard pressed to find a good daycare center. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's hard to do well, and we admire those who can do it well.
Yeah. But I think I want to this is sort of a note for the listeners, those questions about the schedule. I just encourage everybody, those are great questions to ask when you go on a school tour, because I can't possibly keep the blog that up to date and or explain the whole. I had when my kids were little bitty, I had a friend explain to me, well, at the Acorn it's this. And I'm like, are you trying to teach me how to play poker? I don't get it.
It's a lot. There's a whole little algorithm and a chart, but it's all available on the website. But sometimes that is better expressed in person. And so, on our website, there's an admissions tab, and then the first drop down is steps to enroll. And the first one, there's a student application, there's a tour request, there are videos you can watch that goes, and Rich follows them all around the school. And then we do, during the week, if I'm available, I'd love to schedule and show somebody around. Those in the week when class is in session work well sometimes when a child can come to school with us. And then we have one big tour, or this is our second one this year. We're going to do one May 6th at 10 a.m. It's a Saturday. Those on Saturday are just for adults, because we don't want a child's first impression of the school to be like, there were 40 adults there. That's not a fun place. So
no other kids.
we don't want that to be their impression. So that's why we kind of do those things that way. But if we can during the week, I'm happy to show people around and let a kiddo, come. I had somebody today come in, and the other children just welcomed them in and invited them to play, and it just makes them already feel at home when they come here. So.
Yeah, I know I've talked to families about their school search and when did they feel like they had found the right place, and often it's a gut feeling, and it's like, wow, I feel home here. This is where we're meant to be, and that's why on the blog and in these videos, we're trying to present lots of ideas to people so they can go and visit, but then it's the getting to talk to folks like Wendy and Rich, and get that sense of what a school is about, and seeing how your child acts in that space, and then you're like, okay. And people ask me, Inga, you're always talking about STEM schools and classical and liberal arts and all this, and how do I know what my kid is? And I'm like, if they're 3, you probably don't know. Just let them play, and don't worry about it yet. But then over time, things emerge, and you start to notice, the kids who spend a lot of time in the manipulatives room, they might be engineers someday, right?
True.
A lot of engineer grads we have.
Yeah.
We all got started with Legos, right?
Right. That's right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to just talking about the schedule, that made me think about the website and why tours are important, why talking to Wendy and get the details right, that's important. But I don't want to rush, because just if there's I love we're all about storytelling. Can you think of any stories or examples that you feel demonstrate what the culture is at the Acorn School?
Let's see. So, I think it is a very warm, friendly, inviting place. We welcome everyone in their family traditions. We love nothing more than to have a family say, we're celebrating this event coming up. Can we come in and share that with the class? And you kind of learn a lot more about the world that way. So I love that. We've already had Diwali this year, and that was really fun. So, any kind of time we can do that. But then other kinds of things that we do, we have our camping trip with the kindergarten classes.
We go to Lost Maples for the weekend for the kindergarten with all the families and the siblings and the parents. Not just the kids have to have a parent there. You have to have a parent. But that is so fun. We've turned a lot of families into camping families. And then we do an Amtrak train trip every year. The kids grow up, they read books about trains, but they never get on a train. So our kindergartners, we just went last week on an Amtrak train trip. And it's just so fun. They love it.
So those kinds of things are fun to me. But
well, we have also we hear from all of our alumni families all the time how the kids still talk about things that they did at the Acorn, even when they're way past college even. And we get probably about 15, well, pre-COVID, we had about 15 second generation children every year. Wow. So the parents went there and now they're sending their kids and it's just so fun for us because, I knew all the parents and it's just so heartwarming.
So we have our graduating senior reunion. So anybody who went to preschool and kindergarten here and is graduating from high school this year is invited back on campus the day of that tour, actually May 6th. And we show old videos, we look at photo albums, and we show them around and end on the playground. And it's the most cute thing is every year several kids will say, like, you made this hill smaller, or this slide is a lot smaller. You just got a lot bigger. But, there's that. We've had families who've moved away and they come back to San Antonio and they seek us out. They want to come visit this place. It's such a part of their whole childhood being. And,
happy memories.
I found the Acorn the same way, Inga, when my husband was in the military and we'd moved here and I was driving around and looking at schools and I was having that same conversation like, oh, that day's too long a day. That slide on that playground's too high. There's no shade on the playground. There's this, there's that. And my husband had dropped me off for this tour. And when he picked me up, he said, well, what's wrong with this one? and I said, nothing. This is it. So you do know in your gut when it's the right place for you and your family.
And then she said, oh, by the way, I'm a teacher too.
So it worked out for both of us. I got in second.
Our lucky day around here.
So it's a fun thing for sure.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I think let me kind of recap like the nuts and bolts, like how people can get in touch with you, and then we can do a little walkabout when you can show us some of the building. Okay. So we've been talking about the Acorn, a school for young children, and the website for folks just listening on the podcast. It's theacornschool.net is the website, and like Wendy said, there's lots of pages that explain like how to get started, right? How to apply.
And you can take a tour on there we walk you through the school and tell you exactly why we do what we do with all the different pieces of equipment. We talk about all these kinds of equipment there and what the purposes are and what they gain from them, what the children gain.
Yeah. Well, that's a gift. I mean, that's part of what we want to do with the series here is like spread good ideas about things, like why early childhood education should include the ideas about child development and why that's better for kids. So let's see. Oh, here's the phone number for y'all. It's at 210-826-8804. Right. And that's folks can talk to Wendy or, whoever's available at the front desk, maybe set up a time to visit. And like Wendy said, if they visit during a school day, then they can bring their child and see how they feel in that setting.
Works out well.
Yeah.
Something that are we pressed for time, Inga?
No, we it's my show and I decide when it ends.
We have an amazing art program. Well, we do creative art with all the kids. So it's all process oriented, no product. We don't put any model out there for them to copy. That takes away all the creativity. We just lay all the things out there and we might paint with ball moss or sticks or roll-on deodorant bottles or ketchup squeezers, feather dusters. We paint with golf balls. We paint with just about anything you can think of, including, with our feet, but including brushes, finally. And I know when I grew up, I thought, well, where are the brushes? If you see paint, what else can you do? And these kids, they know if you see paint, boy, there's a million different ways to approach it. And so then with the older children, we actually teach them about the great artists. So tell them some of that. I'm going to go get the...
So we do try to incorporate just some artists that they might hear about. So like Rich mentioned already, Monet, Van Gogh, other impressionists. We might study Michelangelo and then talk about the Sistine Chapel, and we look at examples of posters from those places, and then we put paper under the tables, and they lie on their backs under the table and do art. We do Jackson Pollock, where they, put a trash bag over their bodies, and we go outside and we sling paint. So here's an example.
Oh, look at that! Wow,
Isn't that amazing?
very legit.
Kindergarten kids did this, and I'm telling you, we could sell it as a Jackson Pollock.
And we have
I agree.
We could do that. Let's see. This year we've done Chris Van Allsburg and illuminated paintings. We've also done some other more modern artists. So when they did portraiture, we did, a couple of our new up and coming portrait artists. But another example is Louise Bourgeois, who was a practicing artist. I think she's in her 90s maybe, and she did the giant spiders. So in October, we had a whole lesson on Maman, the giant spiders, and they built them out of foil. Or we've done, let's see,
Sorry.
forgot to remind him that. But I'll show you some of those as we walk around. We've done Paul Klee, we'll do Kandinsky, just a multitude. We did Raphael, we've done Audubon, so lots. But there was another thought I had. You were talking about sharing ideas, and we actually have a great relationship with some of the universities. And the University of the Incarnate Word, one of the professors brings her play class to visit our campus every year. And she said they were asking her the same things. We hear about this, we read about this. How do we put it in practice? And so they come, and they're actually coming May 1st, one of her classes, to do like a make and take and get ideas and what can you take into your classroom to add these elements. So we do love to share as much as we can, because we just want other children's lives better as well. So, but before I do take you on the tour, I wanted to show you, we owe you a medal for Fiesta. That's time of year. So we have one here for you, Inga. We got it.
Okay. I'll look forward to picking that up.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
So if you're ready, I can walk you around a little bit.
Yes, let's do the walkabout. Okay. I'm gonna make the screen bigger on Wendy's screen, but my voice will still be here in the background. So we're gonna see as much as we can of the school.
One of the classroom. I'll try not to go too fast so that we don't get too dizzy. But here's a Maman sculpture. And then here we've got Robert Indiana.
Oh yeah.
Love inspired. Oh, and dinosaur footprints going this way. But I really want to take you down the hallway to see.
I guess, and for folks who haven't seen the Acorn School from the outside, it's this beautiful, like, sort of, I don't know, bungalow prairie style house, right? Early 20th century.
So it was built in 1918. It's actually an Atlee Ayers.
Oh wow! Okay.
House. Their little Fiesta. Taco kitchen, all things Fiesta. And I'm gonna just show you like loft area and everything. But I really want you to see the dramatic plays upstairs. So I'm gonna go quickly that way.
And I think one thing that we learned in the research for the article is that y'all added on space to the building so that there's room for more students than there used to be.
We did. This actually is that wing that we're about to enter into. Oh yeah. This is, we added this wing in 2017 just because we don't like turning away kiddos. So this class is studying the rainforest. So
oh, here we go. Oh, this greenery. Wow.
Here to the rainforest. So you can see
the balloons on the ceiling.
The teachers take a lot of pride in taking care of the environment and then adding as they see fit to, where the interest comes from.
Right. Yeah. That's so important for like building students up that they can feel heard, that if they're curious about something.
Yeah, and here is one of
go further with it. Oh, look at that! Oh my gosh!
And our incubation chart.
Wow!
Down the days.
How big the little chicks are getting inside their eggs.
Yeah, and then this is
Oh, a little tent.
nocturnal camping. So they
Yeah.
have flashlights and fishing and all the things. And then this room is an old sleeping porch, which I
Ah,
just love that to think about a sleeping porch back in the day.
yeah.
So this is the Acorn. So happy
Wow.
we could show you around.
Yeah, yeah. No, how great to get the walkabout tour. That's something we don't usually get with Charter Moms chats, but gives folks a little preview. And like you said, there's a virtual, or Rich said there's a virtual tour on the website that people can watch also.
There is for sure. And I don't think I can do it justice from standing here on the porch, but just a glance at our playground, because that's
Look at
without
that.
a doubt the favorite thing. Shaded
Yeah.
adventure playground. So
Yeah, yeah. No, it's beautiful. Yeah, no, it's almost like an extension of Breckenridge Park.
we are.
But
We're
y'all have added so much to it.
just nestled right here in the middle of the park. So
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, it's been such a fun conversation. I really appreciate the stories you've shared, and I feel like I've learned a ton about the Acorn School, and I hope our readers are excited about it. They'll be telling their friends and planning ahead.
I hope so. It's gonna be
Yeah.
fun. It's a fun
Yeah. Okay. Well, great. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me
Well,
on
thank
Charter Moms
you.
Chat.
Thanks for having us. We love sharing our enthusiasm for children.
Yeah. Well, it comes through. Yeah. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right. Take care. Okay. Bye.